guys, how's it going? It's Al. It is week 6 and I have my wide receiver rankings for you, numbers 1 through 24. These are not daily fantasy rankings. These are salary agnostic. They don't have to do with FanDuel. They don't have to do with DraftKings. They do have to do with what I believe the start sit answers should be for your wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s. If you have 3 players and you're saying which 2 should I start the 2 that are higher on the list here. So there's a lot of things up for discussion this week. We just got some news about the Miami quarterbacking situation. They're not going to be starting Tua Tagovailoa. They're probably not going to have Teddy Bridgewater, might be on the sideline. They are going to start Skyler. So let's see how that impacted the rankings this week. Let's go.
He's a legend.
Be sure that you join the Smiz Gang Listener League. It is up for week 6. You can get there through the links at smizzle.tv/links. This is not a lobby game. It is not available. If you go to DraftKings and try to search for Smiz Gang Listener League, it's not going to show up. Only way you can get there is through smizzle.tv/links. It's a $10 tournament, 3 max, $55,000 in the prize pool, and absolutely no rake. The best tournament that exists on DraftKings this year. Make sure that you get in it. It's going to fill on Saturday, so go reserve your 3 spots today. Take advantage of it through the missions. Go over here to rewards, make sure that you click missions, get your daily mission, and then enter the tournament today. So if you have a $10 or below mission, you might as well get those extra crowns while you can and make it a negative rake tournament. I will shout out the top 10 on the recap video that comes out every single Monday on the channel. So go to smizzle.tv/links and enter today. As always, we're going to start with number 1, and as always, number 1 at the wide receiver position is Cooper Kupp. I really don't need to say much more other than, as bad as this offensive line is, it has not hampered Cooper Kupp from getting a ton of targets all the time. 29 fantasy points per game on average with a team that's getting pressured like half the time. At least they were pressured half the time on dropbacks last week. Didn't really affect anything. Still at 125 yards on 10 targets, 7 catches, and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp is a machine and a monster and projects to stay that way. Behind him at number 2 is Stephon Diggs, number 1 option in the number 1 offense in the league in the highest scoring contest on the weekend. The Buffalo Bills go up against the Kansas City Chiefs in what could have 70 or 80 points. He slots in behind Cooper Kupp this week. It's going to be hard to unseat the champ. To be the man, you got to beat the man. He is getting a lot of service on his own, 10 plus targets in 3 of the last 4 games, 5 touchdowns on the year. Steph Diggs in a great spot once again this week. Justin Jefferson comes in as my number 3 wide receiver on the week. He just seems that he's always open. Double-digit targets in 4 of the 5 games. The only game he didn't questionably was like against Detroit. The team that everybody seems to throttle was the team that he did not throttle. 33 and 34 PPR points in the last 2 games. Justin Jefferson is very much an elite alpha in the league and will remain as such this week. Even with Skyler starting on the other side, I would have preferred to have a better, more seasoned quarterback opposite Kirk Cousins so that there would be more possibilities of a shootout. This game can still shoot out. There's a lot of talent on the other side, but like I could see Miami trying to take a more run heavy approach overall this week. So Justin Jefferson, the number 3, would have been the number 3 either way, but like number 3 with a bullet or number 3 just kind of locked in. Deebo Samuel is my number 4 this week against Atlanta. They've allowed the most red zone trips to opposing offenses so far this year of any other team that's in the league. So Deebo Samuel getting the targets that we want. Last week, he just couldn't connect with Jimmy G, catching 2 of 9. This is a great bounce back spot. Did score a touchdown for you, averaging 15.8 PPR points. And behind him, Jamar Chase has not really been unlocked. Tough cornerback situation here with New Orleans on the menu, but it is a dome situation. It's a fast track inside. 10 targets plus in 3 of the 5 games so far this year, but they have not unlocked him downfield, so they're going to have to do a better job of scheming to get the ball to him on easier throws and not like really close to the line of scrimmage, not really super low A-dot throws, but like I would rather see a route tree from Jamar Chase along the lines of what Steph Diggs and Justin Jefferson runs, because really the only time that they're throwing it to him is on quick wide receiver, quick hitters, screens, bubble screens, jailbreaks, all the little short routes, or 9s as he tries to fly down the sideline anytime that they spot a team in, cover 1. So there can't just be that in his route tree. There has to be a lot more intermediate usage. There has to be more creative ways to scheme him open, because you have to get the ball into the hands of your most talented wide receiver in more beneficial situations and let him run after the catch. Now at number 6, I have Tyreek Hill. He would have been 3 or 4 this week if Tua was able to come back and start. But with Tua not being able to start and Skylar under center, I have dropped Tyreek to number 6. I still think he's going to get more than enough volume in this situation. They're optimistic. He left last game because he got stepped on. It's not like it was a bruise. His foot got stepped on. He got cleated in that game. He's still got 7 targets with limited usage, 10 plus targets in 3 of 4 games this year. Obviously, he's not going to get as efficient of usage or the volume of usage downfield with Skylar under center, but you know that McDaniel's going to find ways to get the ball into Tyreek's hands, whether it's on wide receiver screens, whether it's on jet sweeps, whether it's little bloop passes on those jet sweeps. However they're going to get the ball to him, you know that it's going to be in beneficial situations. As a man who has worked as an offensive coordinator in previous years with not the best quarterback play, somewhat limited quarterback play with Jimmy G. Like, he was like the 15th to 20th best quarterback in the league. Not saying Skylar is as good as Jimmy G, but like, he hasn't had elite quarterback play like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Nobody of that tier under center in his offense. So like, I kind of feel like Tyreek is going to get 10 targets in this game. They're just going to come in different ways, but that volume alone and his explosiveness locks him here at number 6 for me. If you're still watching the video, take a couple of seconds, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. I come out with videos 5 days a week here on the Fantasy Football channel. Don't want you to miss any of them. One of them on Mondays is the recap video going over how I did last week with all of my content and my high stakes playing daily fantasy, the 3 rankings videos. And then every Friday, we've got a video for DraftKings Rainmakers if you play that card collecting fantasy football game as well. So plenty of content here on the Fantasy Football channel during the season, as well as planned for off season. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell. Don't want you to miss any of it. At number 7, I have AJ Brown playing against Dallas. This is the Sunday night game this week, and it looks to be a good one. AJ Brown has been up and down this year because of the way that offense runs, right? Like, it's built around Jalen Hurts being Jalen Hurts and accentuating all the things that he can do in those games. I think that Dallas's offense is a little bit better than some of the offenses that Philly has played the last few weeks, which means that I think that they're going to do a little bit better job of scoring points. When I say they're better offenses, they're more varied. They attack you in different ways, which allows for opposing defenses to have to guard one thing and take one thing away, and they have to spy on Jalen Hurts with as many times as he's running the football. But this matchup, they have one cornerback in Diggs, who's a solid cornerback, but takes chances. I think the big play possibility here for AJ Brown is heightened. And if they scheme him onto the other guy on the other side, that's where everybody's been roasting and toasting Dallas's defense when they get chances to drop back and pass. So I think that AJ Brown locked in on volume, but has a big chance for upside here. At number 8, I have Mike Williams. Now, this is a contingency plan, right? So Mike Williams is a different wide receiver when Keenan Allen is on the field versus Keenan Allen being off the field. I mean, he's the same receiver, but his usage is way different. Over the last 3 years, Mike Williams is averaging 17 plus PPR points per game when Keenan Allen has missed, and he's averaging 12 fantasy points per game in the games that Keenan Allen has played. We don't know if Keenan Allen's going to be back. Now, he tweeted out that, like, hey, everything's fine. I'm day-to-day right now. Well, that doesn't mean that you're back. That just means that you're day-to-day, which is essentially saying that he's not going to go on IR. But that doesn't mean he's playing this week. They do have the later game on Monday, so we're gonna be a day behind in terms of practice reports on Keenan Allen. So this is your if-then statement. If Keenan Allen is out, Mike Williams stays right here at number 8 for me. If Keenan Allen is in, Mike Williams drops like all the way down to like 22, 23 in that range, and Keenan Allen is also in that same range. The target expectation, the touchdown expectation, the yardage expectation, the target percentage expectation, all of that tanks when you go from him being the alpha and getting 30% of the market share of targets plus from Herbert, as opposed to him getting 20% of the market share of targets from Herbert when Keenan Allen is there. So it's better for the team in real life in the NFL. It's worse for us if you're a fantasy manager that has Mike Williams if Keenan Allen is there. So there's your if-then statement. Right now, Keenan Allen's still out, or at least I wouldn't say still out. I would say not in yet. So there's your if-then. You know what to do, whether he is in or out. Right now, Mike Williams is a great start, assuming that Keenan Allen does not play. At number 9, Marquise Brown has had a fantastic start to the season, right? Tons of volume, has done a lot with it. We've seen way more from Marquise Brown this year in his bag of tricks. It was building off of what we saw last year when his ADOT kind of came down and he wasn't just a fly runner, and they used him a lot more in short and intermediate to try and help Snoop get the ball out in Lamar's injury plagued season last year. So like now this year he's being utilized a lot of different ways. He's gonna drop the ball sometimes, guys. That's just part of it, right? But like 10 targets plus in each of the last 4 games for Arizona. Now they square off against Seattle, who has been extremely giving to opposing wide receivers, opposing offenses, opposing running back, like everything. Teams are just throttling Seattle, and they're gonna keep doing it. Seattle's defense is not all that good. And their offense has been extremely efficient, creating kind of a carnival-like atmosphere where if their offense is going to continue to be efficient and score touchdowns and their defense can't stop anybody, any offense that has any talent is going to just go off against them. Now, Marquise Brown, this is probably going to be the last week that he is ranked as a wide receiver 1 as DeAndre Hopkins comes back in week 7. So we're going to have to prepare ourselves for Hopkins to be worked back in and probably take away a lot of the percentages in terms of target market share for Marquise Brown moving forward. But enjoy it while it's here. You drafted him knowing that you had 6 weeks. He has done everything for you over those 6 weeks, averaging 20.1 fantasy points per game. Tyler Lockett comes in at number 10. He has been extremely steady. The favorite target so far for this what future Hall of Famer Geno Smith? What are we doing here? Like, Geno Smith has been actually good so far this year, and Tyler Lockett has also been averaging 17.9 fantasy points per game. Right behind him is DK Metcalf. So I guess like if you have the guys from this game, Marquise Brown at 9 and Tyler Lockett at 10 and DK Metcalf at 11, just play all the dudes from this game essentially. Really high total in this one. Currently is sitting at 51.5. Expected to be a close game with Cardinals favored by 2.5. So Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf absolutely going off, and it's hard to separate them, where in previous years it was kind of like whack-a-mole, where one would go nuts one week and then the other one would do nothing, and then the other one would go off the next week and the first one would do nothing. Right now the targets are being split somewhat evenly the last 3 weeks. DK Metcalf has seen 30 targets over the last 3 weeks, and Tyler Lockett has seen like 27, like something along those lines, like extremely close. And they're the only 2 guys who are getting targeted as consistently as they're getting targeted. 25+% of the target market share for each of them. So both can eat in the same week. Metcalf averaging 15.6 fantasy points per game. He comes in at number 11. Behind him at number 12, I have Mike Evans, touchdown machine, and now faces Pittsburgh, who just got absolutely throttled by the Buffalo Bills. But everybody's getting throttled by the Buffalo Bills, so we'll see how that affects things. Kind of up and down because of how touchdown not dependent. He gets enough targets, 18 targets the last 2 games for Mike Evans, coming off the suspension in week 3 following the ejection in week 2 against New Orleans. But he didn't get that touchdown last week, even though the replay showed that his foot was in bounds. It would have been an 18.1 fantasy point day. It ended up being a 12.1 fantasy point day. Would have been a lot better considering coming off of the 33.3 fantasy point day in week 4. Now, if he gets that touchdown, the shadow with the sun was right behind him, the shadow was over the goal, like they just didn't overturn it. Either way, in his 3 games, if that had been rightfully called a touchdown, he would have scored a touchdown in all 3 of the games that he started and finished. Week 2, he got thrown out early, did not score a touchdown, but we didn't expect him to, going up against Marshawn Lattimore, who has completely shut him down in the past. We're trying to raise $100,000 for No Kid Hungry this season. Now, $50,000 of that is going to come from our community. That means you. So if you're watching this video and you like the content, they provide school breakfasts and lunches as well as at-home care to food insecure kids all across the United States of America. If you have $1, $5, $10, if you've won money this year in daily fantasy or on your pick'ems on Underdog Fantasy, if you just like the content or you have some money and you'd like to help out with the cause, and I will be matching every $10,000 from the community with $10,000 myself. So the next match is at $30,000. When we get there, I will add another $10,000 from my own pocket, and together we can try to stomp out food insecurity for young kids across this country by raising $100,000 for No Kid Hungry. $1, $5, $10, $100, every single dollar really helps. Be a part of something bigger than yourself. Go to smizzle.tv/charity and donate today. Moving on to my wide receiver 2s on the week, we'll kick that off with Courtland Sutton at number 13. Now, this Denver offense has it's sputtered. It has not looked very good, but Courtland Sutton has been very good from a volume perspective. 11, 10, and 11 targets in 3 of the last 4 games. What we need is for Russ Wilson's throws to be more on target, right? This is the worst year in the last 8 for Russ Wilson in terms of on target throws. Last year was his lowest year of his career. The year before was the second lowest year of his career. Maybe this is just Russ aging. Maybe Russ can't cook anymore and he should just be out of the kitchen. It's entirely possible, but they have claimed that Russ has been dealing with a shoulder injury. Hopefully, maybe that's just to excuse it, or maybe it's a real thing. Whatever it is, Courtland Sutton has not struggled in terms of the volume headed his way. Hopefully the efficiency rises. That would help his statistical totals, because the volume and the ADOT in combination have both been there to provide us with fantasy success for Courtland Sutton. Hopefully those throws will be more on target moving forward. If they are, Courtland Sutton is going to eat. I've got him here at 13. At 14, CeeDee Lamb, another guy who has gotten a ton of targets, facing off against Philadelphia. And while I understand that Philadelphia is an extremely strong defense, we have said that they're the Russian judge. They're the team that you want to throw out matchups against all season long. He will play on the outside for a good chunk of the time, but they move him around and do a good job of scheming him into targets. He's averaging 10 targets a game so far, with 8 each in last 2 games, and like 34 in the first 3 games. So averaging 10 a game. 5 or more catches in each of the last 4 weeks. The dip from him having Cooper Rush at quarterback, the expected dip from him having Cooper Rush at quarterback, just hasn't materialized. Averaging 14.9 fantasy points per game, and that includes 4.9 in week 1 against Tampa Bay when he was wholly inefficient, catching 2 of 11 targets. CeeDee Lamb has been extremely consistent. The upside may not be there because of the matchup, but the volume is there, giving him a really high floor. If you drafted him, if he's on your team, you're starting him this week. Behind him at 15, I have T. Higgins. Again, if-then statement. If T. Higgins is not able to come back and play, he is day-to-day with an ankle, then don't start T. Higgins. But if T. Higgins plays, this is where I have to rank him, and ahead of a bunch of guys that I have behind him. I'm trying to work in these guys that are questionable at the time of recording, because if they play and I don't have them on the rankings, people get really upset that I don't have them on the rankings. So if T. Higgins plays, based on the way that New Orleans has to cover, and T. Higgins getting more volume, more catches, more yards than Jamar Chase on the other side of him since like the midpoint of last year, because Jamar is getting all the attention. We've discussed in previous weeks how these teams with really, really skillful, talented wide receivers opposite of major alpha wide receivers are getting to run against man-to-man coverage, and that's what T. Higgins is going to get this week, assuming health. I have him at 15. Behind him at 16, I have Chris Godwin, returning last 2 weeks ago into this offense from the hamstring injury sustained in week 1 and coming off of the surgery in the offseason. He's done just fine with 16 targets over the last 2 weeks, 13 catches on those targets, averaging what we had 12.3 last week, 12.9 the week before. Really solid floor, and always is going to have that upside. 1, based on the matchup. 2, because Tom Brady is throwing the ball 50 plus times a game right now with all of the pieces back in this offense. So Chris Godwin getting a lot of easily convertible catches from those targets that he gets running out of the slot. At 17, I have Chris Olave. Smashed his face into the ground last week and left that game after going 4 for 6 for a touchdown. He has had more than 15.4 points in each of the last 3 games, 12 or more fantasy points in each of the last 4 games. Assuming health here, he's still in the concussion protocol as of Monday, but assuming he is cleared, he's going to have himself another game where he gets blasted with targets and highly beneficial, high average depth of throw targets, regardless of who the quarterback is. Olave is a true talent. If he is not cleared, you're not playing him. Just move everybody else up 1. At 18, I have Christian Kirk, coming off of a down game last week, but the volume should normalize and move back. He's not going to be a superstar, but I have to keep him here on volume because he has done a very, very good job. They paid him to run a role in this offense, and he has done no wrong in doing that. Indy has been a defense that you can attack. Only 3 targets last week, but 9 each of the 2 weeks prior. I think that he's going to bounce back with a 7 or 8 plus target game. Let's set the over under at 7.5 if you really want to test this. And getting that amount of targets with the touchdown expectancy that he would have in this game in a fast track situation against Indy that I expect them to be playing from behind, and in more positive game script situations for a wide receiver, I'll put Christian Kirk here at 18. Behind him at 19, Michael Pittman. Now, I prefer that their offensive line actually blocked. Like that's, how about we just start there? Because Matt Ryan cannot play under the amount of duress that he has played under. The targets have sustained, right? Week 1, 13, week 3, coming off of the injury, 9, week 4, 6, week 5, he had 8 targets. The value here is fine in terms of the target market share. There's really nobody else to throw to. Pierce is on the other side doing a great job as a rookie, but Pittman is the one that can really unlock things for this offense. But he requires that 8 and 9 players to be in the box, so he requires Jonathan Taylor to be in the game. The touchdown upside here is solid against Jacksonville. Give me Michael Pittman at 19. At number 20, on the other side of that Tampa Bay game, I'll take Deontay Johnson. The targets are monstrous. They always have been. They always will be. Against Buffalo, different situation, but he did log 13 targets in that game. There was a lot of hand-wringing after week 4 when Kenny Pickett came into the game that, oh God, it's going to be George Pickens. George Pickens got all of the targets after Kenny Pickett came into the game, and they're just not going to throw the ball to Deontay Johnson anymore. That's called an anomaly. 13 targets in week 5, 11 in week 3, 10 in week 2, 12 in week 1. He is a 10+ target a game getter every single week. I would expect Pickett to be able to complete more than 5 of those if he throws 10+ balls in Deontay Johnson's direction. Gabe Davis is my number 21 this week. Fantastic situation, fantastic game. We saw the touchdown upside from him last week, but like, you don't want to have to rely on touchdowns for your fantasy scoring. They're more of just upside things. He got 6 targets in that game. He's had 5 or more targets in 3 of the 4 games that he's played this year, but the tape was showing that Gabe Davis is having issues cutting on that ankle, right? He has not had a good time coming off of the ankle injury, getting into these sharp cutting routes. So how did the Bills adjust? Let's just have him run straight ahead. And that worked for him, catching 3 balls for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really high variance outcomes here. I have to keep him in the top 24 because of the touchdown upside in this offense. Josh Allen, a favorite to throw 3 or more touchdowns this week. 3 or 4 is certainly on the table, way more so than 1 or 2, with the Bills being the highest pass rate over expectation offense in the league, as much as they throw the ball, and as many points are expected to fall out of this game. Gabe Davis is a solid bet on touchdown player, and if you have him and you made the mistake of leaving him on your bench last week, you're not doing it again. He is in the wide receiver 2 conversation. Behind him is Adam Thielen, who has not been, he has not had a big game this year, right? We haven't seen that 2 touchdown game out of him. He's got 1 touchdown on the year, but 7 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets in each of the last 4 games. The volume is what's going to keep him in this conversation. And considering how much his usage has been in the red zone historically from Kirk Cousins, he is kind of that safety blanket guy on the other side of a JJ who gets all of the attention and opportunity. I mean, JJ is amazing, right? So like, he's going to get all that and he deserves it. But like, Adam Thielen's going to find his way into touchdowns sooner rather than later with where his usage has been, not just historically, but this season as well. Amari Cooper is my wide receiver 23 on the week. Coop has done a really good job. He just has. And with as solid as this rushing game is, and as 2-pronged as the Cleveland Browns passing game is, it's Amari Cooper and it's David Njoku. And that's pretty much it. Okay. 12 targets, 10+ targets in 3 of the last 4. The only game he didn't was against Atlanta, somewhat shockingly. He gets New England this week at home. 12 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. The volume is undeniable. 3 touchdowns. Every time he has gotten 10 targets in a game this season in 2022 from Jacoby Brissett, he has ended the game with a touchdown as well. Solid floor, touchdown upside here as well. And behind him at 24, rounding out my wide receiver 2s, is favorite of the stream and the channel, Romeo Doubs. I think that this kid is taking over the passing attack on the Packers, right? Now, I know that he did not lead the team in targets last week. That went to Randall Cobb with 13 of them, but like, Randall Cobb is not going to be able to sustain that sort of usage every single week. The Jets have strong cornerbacks, that's for sure. Sauce Gardner and his compatriot on the other side are doing extremely well this year, but 8 targets in 2 of the last 3 games, 5 targets last week. and a lot of red zone and end zone usage from Aaron Rodgers. Once you are in the trust tree with Aaron Rodgers, he will just go to you often and over and over and over again. I have him over a couple of other players in this spot because of how much touchdown upside there is here with Dobbs when the Packers get in close. So if all of the people think that this game is going to be one where the Packers are going to win, and the Packers are favored by 7.5 in this game, all of the touchdowns probably are not going to come on the ground. I know that Aaron Jones is an extremely popular running back this week, as is AJ Dillon. But when you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the football, it's hard to deny that his biggest and most athletic and best target in the red zone and in the end zone right now is Romeo Dobbs. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.